morning, good evening, good afternoon from wherever you're tuning in. It's your sis, Moon Magic, aka the Hip Hop Witch. I'm an MC, producer, artist, educator, and professional tarot reader. And we are back for another collective tarot reading. This time I'm pulling on the energy of our Scorpio season. And even though I'm doing this reading during Scorpio season and tapping into the Scorpio season, this reading is timeless. Trust that whenever you find this reading, that it's meant for you at that time period. It doesn't matter whether you find this reading 2 years from now, during the Virgo season, or 6 months from now. My intention is that this reading finds you when it is time and when it is right, and that these readings feel like a personal reading just for you, especially because my community here is small. We are small but mighty. So the chances that you come across this means that this message could be very much for you. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and dive into this general tarot card reading for the collective here during Scorpio season. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start with our Hip Hop Tarot deck. It is my favorite deck. I'm always using it for overall energy and advice. So let's see what is the overall energy for Scorpio season coming in right now. So I have the Hierophant and the Wheel of Fortune on the back of the deck. So with the Hierophant here, the Hierophant's message has always come in for me as like tough lessons learned of having gained great insight, knowledge, scholarship, being able to really look at the structures and systems of things and really learn and understand how those structures and systems work. It's been really highlighted with me for Hierophant. I've always had this energy of feeling, against kind of what the Hierophant represents. But here for the Scorpio season, I feel like it's using these things to your advantage. Scorpios can be very great with their words and working with energy, and especially working with the shadowy more depth areas of our life, things that go deeper beyond the surface level. And that's the kind of energy I'm getting with this Hierophant card here, is kind of looking at the systems and structures, whether it's of certain institutions, certain, media outlets. This could be how social media works, how your life works, your relationships, really digging deep into the structure of how those things are set up and designed, and really working with that structure and system in the ways in which they're designed to work in your favor. Now, this is not to go with the status quo. This is not to work for the system or give into the machine, so to speak. I'm not saying it like that. It's almost like if it's a game of chess, it's like in this season of Scorpio, you are understanding the rules of the game of chess. So instead of just getting the game played upon you, you are kind of understanding each piece and how each piece fits on the board. And, for example, what a pawn is, used for, and how to maneuver that pawn best on your chessboard of life, how a knight is used in your chessboard of life, how the queen is used in your chessboard of life. This is the analogy that Spirit is showing me, the divine is showing me, is this chessboard that, like, we all know the rules of chess, right? Hopefully you know the rules of chess. If not, look it up. But you know what I'm saying? Like, the rules of chess are not something that you can change unless you have, you and a friend get together and you make an agreement to make up a new rule, which, maybe that is a message here for somebody as well. But what I'm saying is, like, it's these rules that we all kind of agree to or have agreed to, that this is how you play the game of chess. And so this could be very daunting, and something in the past that maybe you even felt like annoyed by or hated or disliked about this thing is like, it's also, I'm hearing like, don't hate the player, hate the game. That type of energy could be a message for someone here. Remember, this is an overall message for the collective, so make sure to take what resonates and leaves the rest. But I feel like whatever area of life this is, it's like you're finally, instead of fighting against this institution, this structure, this system, you're finding a way to work with it in a way that does not compromise who you are. It's almost like the systems, the specific structure has realigned. There might have been I'm also hearing a lot of upheaval of this structure or this system in the past. Like let's say this is a relationship, and maybe, you've always been against the idea of certain things that are quote unquote relationshipy, but maybe there was some sort of blockage in the relationship or connection that prevented you you two both being able to tap into that energy, and you secretly wanted this thing, or it was something that you're actually not against. You were just against the blockage at the time, if that makes sense. I feel like that's a message for someone very specific. If it does not think of a relationship for you, I'm seeing this really more for most of the collective as like global wide institutions and systems. Like a finance could be a really big one, like for the longest time you might have been annoyed by the rules of the game of finance, of like saving 20%, and how ridiculous that might have sounded to you, and how angry you might actually even have been, or are at how we have to continuously play this game in order to have our basic needs met, when everyone's basic needs should be met. And instead of trying to figure out how to work on those finances, it's like every time you think about it, you have this anger that's built up for the fact that we even live in a world that reduces us to these numbers and this paper money. And that is also, I feel like, another specific message for somebody that felt like it needed to come through. But point being is that this energy might show up in different ways in your life, whether it's in your finances or in a very specific market, maybe that your career you've been working towards, and you didn't really like the way in which everybody was going about it, but you're figuring out a way to no longer be like a victim of it, but instead learn it and use it so that it works, and not using it like manipulating someone, but I see it more like understanding the ins and outs of it, so that you are working with it to work it towards your best, highest good, your highest alignment, your highest divine purpose with that thing, instead of working constantly against it and yourself, because of the oppressive, burdensome that institutions and systems can represent and be, which is extremely valid as well. But I feel like the Scorpio energy is kind of teaching us how to see things for what they are, and master them in a way that still honors our commitment to ourselves, our integrity, our values. This is giving like someone who is not usually seen in a specific type of industry, and that industry might be very traditional, but and I also feel like this is a specific message for someone like it's a very traditional industry or something like that, and you're trying to make way and break out into the system and industry that traditionally wouldn't have someone like you in it. So this could also represent something like that, where you're like, it could have been feeling like the longest time that this thing was just constantly burdensome to you, and now you're understanding the ins and outs, so that the power is now more in your hands. Scorpio energy is very much a transformative energy to me, and something that really speaks to personal power. So I feel like this is really speaking to your personal power in shaping these systems and these institutions as well. And I feel like that's something that might be coming up as well. Overall, the energy here is like working with these structures that are already in place instead of working against them, and actually your participation in them, changing them in some sort of powerful way is also what I'm hearing. It could be like you make waves in this social media market that changes the face of social media. That's one example of how this energy might show up. It could be, you fully decide to commit and jump into that relationship that maybe you were going through your own things that caused you to not be able to commit, or whatever it may be that was a blockage in that relationship, and now you're going all in and really seeing the way in which the structure of that relationship, now that it has that foundation, is really flourishing. This could be, again, the finances. Maybe you're really like, okay, yeah, I'm going to do, look at the little traditional pie graph of what they recommend for finance smarts and research and save 20% and, invest in this. And, even if I can only put $2 into my savings, I'm going to look into starting one. It could be that type of structure system that you are now working with instead of it working against you. And with that, and the reason why I see it is because with this Wheel of Fortune, it's this feeling of it like working with you in your favor, working with you to get you somewhere that you haven't been before, working with you in a way that fundamentally changes the thing itself, which I think is extremely powerful. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and move on to advice though. So let's go ahead and see what advice comes out. And for the advice cards, I'm actually just going to pull some of the traditional deck here for additional support, and I will choose one of these cards for the overall advice. So let's see what the overall advice is for you with working with this energy. Moon card, right on time. This is really a card that I feel like is ruled by Scorpio, is ruled by that energy of just really going to the depths of things and really observing things that many people might be scared to observe, or taboo, the things that are taboo, and wanting our intention and understanding. Again, it's like working with these things so that they don't work against us, but being able to see it for what it is and understand that there's something really beautiful when you work with not only your shadows, but the shadows of life itself, the shadows of the universe or the world or the seasons, right? The depths of life, and how these things have a lot of value. And there's a lot of things that are shadowy that we do not want to see in life, but it's asking us to not ignore it and to understand how important it is when we work. It can be when we work with those things. And our shadow and our light is very important and fundamental to us being whole. Those are a lot of the personal messages that have been coming through for me lately as well, is just really connecting and understanding and loving those shadows and loving on our parts of ourselves too, even, that we do not like, and how important it is to see the importance of them both existing and why they both must exist. And that doesn't mean that we shouldn't change or work on things that we don't like about ourselves, but you're fundamentally always going to be flawed or, not perfect in, whatever standard, you may have for yourself. And this idea of perfectionism is a really flawed concept. And so going back with that institution, structures, and systems is how can we work with those shadowy sides of life in a way that, again, works for our favor instead of fighting against the current, so to speak. Hopefully that makes sense. So I'm going to go ahead and pull from this deck right here for a little bit more specifics on how this might play out for you. But again, remember, this is a general reading, so take what resonates and leave the rest. We have the Chariot card. Yes, so I do feel like there's a lot of duality that's going to be happening during this time period. I think Spirit wants to remind you that there's a lot of duality that might be happening during this period. You might go through a lot of intense highs and lows right now during Scorpio season, or just in general in this time period as we're transitioning into the colder months. There might be a lot of like really beautiful moments, and then things that just like hit really hard in a way that, you weren't expecting, or just, it could be like, having those days that hit you hard mentally, whatever it is for you. It doesn't mean that necessarily anything bad in your life is going to happen. This could be something as simple as like you just have like a not so great day mentally, like you're just feeling really hard on yourself, beating yourself up, mentally, or just feeling like you're not really progressing towards your goals, or having a harder time finding the energy to progress towards your goals, right? That could be the darker side of this energy. It doesn't have to be something super dark and heavy and really horrible that happens, quote unquote, Like want anyone to see this message and be afraid of what might happen. Like I said, it could just be something as simple as like, you know, you have a day that you're like, man, today just was a lot. It wasn't the best day. Like I didn't feel that motivated and my body didn't feel that good. Maybe you had a head cold, or, you know what I mean? Maybe you're on your moon cycle, you feel me? And you're just like, man, today's just meh. You know, that's like the shadowy side of this. But then the next week, next couple of days, you could have like a really good day and be like vibing with all your friends. And, you know, you go to this party and just have a really great time, or, you know, you get to do something and you feel super accomplished that you did it. I feel like during the Scorpio season, there's going to be a lot of this duality, this yin yang happening. And I feel like Spirit just wants to remind you of that, again, that balance, how important both the light and shadow aspects of life are, and that it's not all or nothing. And, you know, to see things from a, not to not sit with it, not to not process it, not to not feel it. We're not bypassing, right? But to really, you know, have that understanding and grace of the bigger scope of life during time periods that could try and trip you up, or, you know, and then you see in the bigger scheme, especially we're talking about something like you just had a bad day, you know what I mean? It was like a bad hair day, you know what I mean? Don't let a bad hair day ruin your whole month. And that's something that, of course, if it's, you know, something that's more, you know, bigger than a bad hair day, then it, you know, it might be something that does need your attention, and, you know, you're definitely welcome to grieve that thing, and you don't need my permission to do so, right? You know what I mean? Life is full of ups and downs, and there's a lot of downs that don't have a lot of sense and doesn't really seem like it happens for any reason and are very painful, and nothing anyone says or does is going to necessarily help make that thing feel better. And you don't need anyone's permission to feel your full range of emotions and to feel grief and sorrow, and to allow yourself to hold space for that. I just felt like that was really important to say, just because this is a general reading, and I don't want anyone to feel like ever that what they're going through on a dark, shadowy aspect is ever to feel minimized or like it's not a big deal. Because you feel it and it's rough for you, then it's a big deal. And you, you know, should never feel like you're not allowed to feel like, you know, pain or sorrow or grief, or those feelings are bad feelings and you have to push them away or shove them away. But with that being said, I just wanted to say that because I think it's so important that we are allowed to honor our emotions and not shove away an experience just because it is considered bad, or it really might just be a bad experience, you know what I mean? But I also wanted to say this because I feel like for some people that are watching this, they might resonate with, you know, being really hard on themselves and maybe having a lot of things like insecurities that come up maybe when you're talking with other people and you're like, oh my gosh, my hair looks so wild and I was trying to work with it for the last 2 hours and it's still bugging out. So then when you're talking to someone, you know, going back to that bad hair day example, right? You're talking to someone, you're out at the party, and like the whole time you're just thinking about how whacked out your hair looks. And then it's like, you know, from if someone else's perspective, they probably didn't even notice your hair. And a lot of times I've noticed this with certain insecurities that we have, again, not to minimize them, but I noticed that a lot of times other people actually don't see them the way that we see them and might be thinking something completely different. And if they were thinking like, oh my God, her hair looks crazy, that lady is wild, or boy, or whoever, then that person's just a mean person and you don't need them in your life anyways. And who cares what they think? But you know what I mean? A lot of times, you know, like maybe we think, oh, I should have, you know, I spoke too much about this thing and geeked out on it, and they probably think I'm all weirdo, you know, those kind of shadowy types of thoughts about ourselves might be coming up during this time period in Scorpio season. And I feel like Scorpio season right now, and the gift that it's trying to give us is to see how lovable your bad hair day is. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's okay for it to just be a bad hair day and you ain't gotta love it, but like also you're still lovable even with that bad hair day, quote unquote bad hair day, you know what I mean? And someone else might look at your hair and be like, man, that's such a cool, inventive new style and way of doing things, you know what I mean? And it's just more like allowing yourself to give yourself permission to be human and not to be so hard on yourself and expecting yourself to be perfect. I think is a really, really important part of this time period of this Scorpio season. And I just feel like that's really confirmed. The Ace of Cups is right here and the Ace of Rods, which I just really love. So, you know, don't allow yourself, devil card, don't allow yourself to fall into that trap of just like beating yourself up and expecting yourself to constantly have light and love in your life, or to constantly do things that is like, you know, considered good or positive every single moment of your life. And to honor wherever you're at, and to understand that those shadows have powerful medicine and magic for us as well. But we can also still acknowledge how painful they are, and how we don't need to see the lesson in every bad thing that happens to us. Some things can just suck, and that is okay as well. But, you know, just watch out for the way that it beats you up mentally, and, you know, tries to limit you and confine you, and, you know, puts you into this imprisonment and victim state, you know, is ultimately, I feel like, what Scorpio energy in this season is really speaking to right now, is wanting to free us from making ourselves the victim, or, you know, victimizing ourselves into feeling like we're powerless, and really seeing a way we can work with these energies in a way that helps us to feel more liberated and feel more authentic to who we are in doing so. And gives us more motivation, and sparks inspiration, and all of those things. And if you're not having the best day every single day, and you're not motivated every single day and inspired and productive, that doesn't make you a bad, lazy person. That makes you human. And it's completely okay to have a bad day, or to feel tired, or to need to rest. You know yourself best. And we live in a very capitalistic, you know, society that values production over the value of a human being just being. And this might be a message for you as well, in case you have been really hard on yourself, that you know, the more gentle you are with yourself, and the more you allow for both of these things to exist, you know, bad hair days and days lazy in your PJs, you know, if you need it. And of course, if you need it, you know, we all today we had the Hermit card come out on the tarot pool, and the message was like, even the best hermit knows when to come out of the cave and phone a friend. So same thing here, you know what I mean? Like, if you need that time to yourself, you know, do that. If you you know, don't want to express it, that's okay. But know when it gets to a place of being unhealthy, because that can be a fine balance. And make sure you communicate and reach out and get help from a friend or somebody you love, as well as you trudge through these trenches. And just, you know, life is full of ups and downs and all around. So I think this energy is just really highlighting that during Scorpio. We also have the Five of Pentacles and the Four of Cups. So this could also be an energy that might have you in your feels, that might have you in like, you know, all the times in the past that this type of thing has happened, you know, going back to the example of a bad hair day, like it might have this whole trauma built up since you were a kid about your hair because of, you know, things you were told by your parents or friends. And so when you have a bad hair day, it's not like you're just fighting the bad hair day of that day, but you're also fighting this long-standing list of years of stories that have told you that your hair is not beautiful, or that you can't, you know, that you have a bad hair day and that your hair looks wild, or whatever the thoughts may be, right? And this feeling can be very isolating. It can have us not in a place of really being tapped into, you know, just can disconnect us from our truth and from all that life has to offer, when we are seeing ourselves from a place of not being enough, really. I also feel like for some of us during Scorpio season, there might be some challenges that might come up with this shadow energy here. So I feel like Spirit is also just advising to, you know, not try not to dwell on anything to a point where it's unhealthy. You know what I mean? Challenges, they're here to help us grow, and certain challenges just are what they are for reasons that we may never understand. And it's not our job to always figure out why they are happening. A lot of times it's not our job to figure out why they are happening. And definitely not something that you want to make your, like, a personal thing if it's not a personal thing. You know, this could be, for example, maybe like if something happens to your friend or happens to your parent, and it might be very difficult for you to deal with the fact they're dealing with this problem, right? It's not your problem, it's their problem. but as a result of it being their problem, it kind of becomes your problem, or you feel like it's happening to you, or maybe it is something that affects you too, and it becomes this thing where it feels really personal, like the universe is against you. And I just feel like Spirit's warning that that's not the case, and to be mindful of that kind of judgment, while fair to feel. And of course, you don't have to listen to me at all. That's just what's coming through for the advice here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and pull some oracle cards now and see what comes through. And again, this is not like, nobody watching this, I don't think you're going to watch this and something is going to happen to you that you weren't already experiencing while you're watching this. This video is meant to only help those during this time period. It does not mean that you should be on the lookout for any type of shadowy things happening, or anything like that. So just a disclaimer there, and remember that the intention of these readings is always to help as advice than to make you feel that you need to be on the watch for something, because that's definitely not the case here. I think it's just more, honestly, what it is just Spirit is really just being mindful of like, hey, life is good and bad, and there's everything in between, and don't beat yourself up too much about when the bad things do happen. And this season is really just a time to really acknowledge the parts of yourself that maybe you have been rejecting and beating yourself over, even subconsciously. But Spirit is saying, hey, those parts of you also deserve love and attention, and make you who you are. And so, if you have a bad hair day, that's okay. And if you don't feel your best every single day, that's okay too. We're not robots. We're not meant to just be producing things nonstop. And I think that's the main takeaway message here that the Scorpio advises you and wants you to know, is to just allow yourself to be human, the full range of that human experience. Advice: take risk. Risks are personal to each of us. To some, climbing a mountain doesn't feel risky. To others, having a conversation with a stranger does. What has been calling you that you have been afraid to do? Comfort kills growth. It is important that we regularly do things that push the envelope, that make us feel nervous, apprehensive, and uneasy, with the exception of physical danger. This card is asking you to take the plunge and do the thing that intimidates you, and trust that the net will appear after you jump. Yeah, I love this because I feel like excuse me, so I did lose my voice. Sorry, I lost my voice last weekend, and I've been slowly recovering the strength of my voice, which is why we did not do tea and tarot this week. So if you hear me coughing or anything like that, just know I'm working through that, but we're okay. So when I see this card, take risk, right, I'm thinking of exactly what I was saying. So let's go back to, you have some sort of insecurity maybe about how you look or what you're going to say when you go to this party. And I feel like this message here is like, take that risk. Like, wouldn't it be better for you to just go to the party and be fully present and be fully yourself? And you ever look at somebody who's just like really dancing and in the moment and really enjoying it, and someone else might be looking at them and thinking all these thoughts about them, but that's that other person's problem. Like, that makes that other person, they got some things they got to work out with themselves. You feel me? Like, if you are really just in the moment, enjoying yourself and having a good time, and someone's actively trying to find something about you to tear you down in, that's really the other person's problem. And I feel like this card here is really advising you to take that risk, to say it's better to go out to that party, have a wildly great time, be fully present, be in the moment, really experience it, than to be this shell of yourself because you're halfway covering this beauty mark on your face that you have shame of, that actually someone else thinks makes you really, really cute and is You know, they've been eyeing you from across the room, but you've been hiding in the corner for the last 30 minutes that you can't even tell that they're looking at you. And you are thinking they're looking at you in disgust when they're really looking at you and being like, wow, that person's really beautiful. I want to talk to them. But they seem like, you know, they don't want to talk. So like, I don't know if they would want to talk to me. And maybe they're in their head thinking about what you might be thinking about them. You know what I'm saying? So this card is all about just taking that risk and putting yourself out there and just being fully present in the moment and just really enjoying it instead of overthinking all these things. And, you know, Scorpio is a very mental sign and a very mental energy. So I feel like this card is really asking you to get out of thinking too much about it and just doing and experiencing it and allowing yourself to get in touch with the physical aspects of living. All right, I'm going to pull one more card and we're going to close it out. So I'm going to pull one more card from the Oracle card, the Moon deck. And I just want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank your guides, my guides, and the divine for this time. As always, if you like what you have heard, you can hop over to our Patreon down below. That's where we have a community of moonbeams just getting together and vibing. And I pull tarot readings for them, the highest tier each month. I also post exclusive content over there. You can pose questions, and it's just a really awesome little community and hub over there where we talk more about things like this. And it's also a way to support me and my journey as an artist. So definitely check it out down below if you like this type of stuff or want to book a reading. But we're going to go ahead and dive into this last message. It is called, I surrender to the power of prayer and devotion. I surrender to the power of prayer and devotion. And I love this card because I feel like this card just really reminds us to connect with spirit in a more meaningful, intentional type of way. Whether you believe in God, the divine, however you name it, universe, your higher self, or just communicating with that inner self can be really powerful. So this card is called prayer. There are times when prayer and devotion drops us to our knees with a heartfelt plea for support and direction. Other times it's a calm daily reprieve where we fill our cup with gratitude and open up to the holy flow. Your path and your relationship to the divine is unique to you and always evolving. The sincerity you bring to your spiritual practice, just like any relationship, is when it really blossoms. Prayer yokes us to our truth, to the collective experience, and to a loving vibration that moves through us all. When the mental looping of fear-based stories surface, it's often a sign that you're disconnected from your power, your greater service, or your connection to spirit. That goes back to that devil card, you know, being very mindful of the mental traps and the spirals that can happen when we start experiencing just having a bad day. Tap into the powerful practice of prayer and feel the loving force of devotion. And also, I want to say, for those of you who maybe you're having more than just a bad day, because again, I don't want to minimize anyone's experience, and this could really go to speak to a wide range of things. Like, you could be going through something really, really undeniably tough right now, and I feel like taking it a day at a time and praying and asking for support in whatever way you can. There is nothing wrong with that. And that is not a sign of weakness. And sometimes we do need to phone a friend, phone God, you know what I mean? Talk to a therapist, you know, ask for help in whatever way that we need to, and trust that someone or something can help us and will catch us. I think is really important because we are connected. You know, you don't have to do this all alone. And so I feel like this card can also speak to that and reaching out to your support system within yourself in the spiritual sense, but also in the physical world. So I feel like that was a message for someone as well. But with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and leave the message here. I want to thank your guides, my guides, and the divine again for this time together. And I look forward to seeing and pulling for you guys in the next video. Thank you for getting through my nasally sounding voice. And again, if you want more of this, you can go ahead and join us on the Patreon down below. Make sure to like this video and comment down below if it resonates. And I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.